that are online, but they can see us. And um, I wanted to thank everybody for coming today and to encourage people to do a couple things. First of all, please invite other people. As you can see, there's plenty of room, and we have amazing programs. And to that effect, if you have a program or speaker or somebody you know that's doing good in the community, organizations or issues that that are really moving, we would love to have the opportunity to have them present here, and so more people get to know their work. So at the end of the presentation, you'll be invited to go back to when you entered, and there's a whole table full of upcoming events. So I wanted just to pull out a few to give people an idea of some of the things that we're doing. And then I'll introduce our PEO, and she'll talk about some of the really nice things that are happening outside of the programs with the Immaculate Heart Community. So first of all, we have a program called Friends of the Heart. These are not, it's not a membership. It's just an affiliation with the Immaculate Heart Community. It doesn't cost anything, and it just gets you sort of an idea of programming that are coming up, special invitations to things that we're doing. We participate in the LA International Short Film Festival, where we get free tickets, and our Friends of the Heart get those. We have the programming up here and other activities. So please just sign up for Friends of the Heart, and you'll get called about possible volunteer opportunities and activities. We also have upcoming a program on April 29th. It's called The Essential Conversations, and it's on the intersection of criminal justice and mental health. And it's going to be in Los Angeles, but anybody who would like to come, we'd like to have you as our guest. It's at the E-Bell, and it's on morning till, it's from 9 till 1 on the 29th. And the speakers are just stellar. Next month's Lunch and Learn is on May 21st, and we have Good Samaritan. And if you enjoyed the food today, that was from the Good Samaritan organization. They do homeless services, job training, a whole bunch of things. They have a farm, but they also now have a food truck and catering. And so if you do special occasions up here, I would just recommend having them. You saw how great and tasty the food was, fresh. So that's May 21st. All of our stuff that I'm talking about is on our website. You can find it under upcoming events. And please, again, if you're not on our mailing list, make sure that you get on our mailing list. But also, please send to your friends, because this is just a great way to grow community, not only ours, but our progressive, activist, spiritual community. We have, on May 15th in Los Angeles, we have a lunch and learn, and the speaker is going to be from Just Faith. So many people here have probably participated in Just Faith activities. How many people have been involved with Just Faith? Oh, so many. So the new executive director will be coming to Los Angeles to do a similar program. He'll be here for Lunch and Learn, and we'd love for you to come down, maybe carpool, and see this very informative program, but then take it back, because we'll be doing work with them on more programming through the Immaculate Heart Community, and then they have their own programming. We also have a film club that I'll send out another round of flyers, but that's in May, at the end of May, and it's just online. And through the LA International Short Film Festival, we have opportunity to support justice-themed films. And so these are short films that deal with the topics that Immaculate Heart focuses on: housing, women's rights, the environment, racial justice, and the like. And so through the film festival, if you could come to LA, you could see these films, but we are amplifying them, especially the justice-related ones, through an online screening and then conversations afterwards. So if anybody's interested in film or these topics, please reach out and sign up, because this is something you could do from home. You can bring your own popcorn, the better tasting kind, probably. I guess at the very end, the last thing is that there'll be surveys about this program, but also we would really like to have you fill out what kind of programs you'd like us to see. We're so open to finding out what we don't know, and so many of the programs that we've had is because people in the audience would suggest individuals or topics that they'd like to see. So it's a very simple sign up form, just so we know how we're doing, and then topics. So I'm going to end it there, but thank you again for coming. I want to introduce Sherry Purcell. She's our president and principal executive officer, and she'll take it from there.
Thank you, Pam. Well, welcome everybody to our, what month is this? April Lunch and Learn up here at La Casa de Maria. We're glad that you could join us. I want to begin today with our Power Up practice. So if you've been with us before, you kind of know what this is. But there's these kinds of bookmarks out on the table if you want to take one when you leave. But what we'd like to do is invite people at noon every day or whenever you have a chance during your day to just pause for a moment and power up your heart. Take a break from the chaos and the craziness that's in our world right now and just center in. So if you're wanting to do that today, please join us. So I invite you to put your hand over your heart, maybe close your eyes if you want. And then breathe deeply into your heart and power it up. And once you've powered it up, send waves of love and compassion across this region, across communities that are suffering and in pain and experiencing the chaos that is in our lives right now. And then I invite you again to breathe deeply into your heart. Power it up good and send that love out across our nation. As a nation, we're struggling to find our moral compass again, and with our love and intention, we embrace those in leadership and those who are working for justice. Breathe into your heart again, power it up. In this time, send those waves and that energy of love across the world, around the world, to Mother Nature. We're not in this alone. We're all in this together. We need to embrace each other. And one more time, power up your heart. And let's send those waves of love to each other, all of us who are gathered here today, seeking information and seeking solutions to some of the critical issues of our time. And with that, I let it be and say amen. Thank you. Thank you. So we started our Lunch and Learn series in Los Angeles about 3 years ago, and we started bringing it back up here to La Casa de Maria last fall. The Lunch and Learn gives us an opportunity to live out the Immaculate Heart Community goal statement, which calls us to hold reverence for all of creation and build relations in society which foster access for all persons to truth, dignity, and full human development, and to strategically change practices and situations which impede such access. And one way to build relations and to strategically change practices is by bringing like-minded people like you together as we gather and showcase the heroes and sheroes in our nonprofit world. So a little bit about who we are. In 1970, the Immaculate Heart Community evolved from a canonical community of nuns to an inclusive ecumenical lay community that we are today. We're no longer nuns. We're men, women, gay, straight, married, single. We don't live in a convent. We believe in God, and we act out our faith through justice and social justice activities. We consider ourselves to be a community without walls, and we have members in the United States, Canada, and England. We accept new members every year, and please check out our website and our Friends of the Heart initiative to learn more about who we are and how you might get involved beyond the Lunch and Learn. When you come to a Lunch and Learn, we focus on three things: education, pray, and act. So we educate each other on the topic that we're talking about today. We ask you to pray in your own faith tradition, whatever that might be, for what you are going to be hearing about. And then we also ask you to act. So today, Dr. Martita Martinez Bravo will be talking to us about her work with Friends of Fieldworkers. And as you listen to her, consider what she's talking about and ways that you might help her get involved in her work. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Martita Martinez Bravo. She's the first executive director of Friends of Fieldworkers. She has been an active volunteer and organizer for the organization since 2017. She resides with her 3 children and husband in Camarillo. She's the eldest of 9 children from Ventura County farm working family. She's the first in her family to earn a college degree, and later she achieved both a master's and a doctorate degree in clinical psychology. She's a graduate of the University of California in Irvine. She's dedicated her educational and personal experiences to create transformational community benefits to the community. She is a public servant who in 2022 made history as the first elected Latino and woman of color council member in the city of Camarillo. Yay. She finds fulfillment by building relationships and helping others, such as by serving on nonprofit boards like the Anti-Defamation League and Kidstream Children's Museum. Additionally, she's a social justice environmental activist, earning community awards for her work. Martita is an active parishioner at Padre Sierra Parish as both a ministry leader and a catechist. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Martita Martinez Bravo.
Thank you so much. Truly an honor to be here and to have been invited by the Immaculate Heart Community. And thank you for all of the work and the love that you put into everything that you do and putting prayer into action through different service deliveries. So very honored to be here today representing Friends of Fieldworkers. Friends of Fieldworkers is a nonprofit organization serving Ventura County farm workers, but if you eat, you benefit from the work of Ventura County farm workers. So I think that's all of us. Our mission is to befriend farm worker families in Ventura County by supporting, celebrating, and advocating for them. And so through our programming, we focus on our mission, which is mission-driven in supporting them and how we celebrate them and how we advocate for them. Approximately how many farm workers do you think there are in Ventura County? Just Ventura County. Any guesses? What is it? 30,000? Anybody else? 50? Okay, there's about 42,000 farm workers in Ventura County, so 42,000 families, pretty close. So they contribute to over a $2.3 billion agricultural industry, which is high resources for the county of Ventura. So from just an economic standpoint, even if there's somebody who says, well, I'm against immigrants, against immigration, the reality is that they are a vital source from an economic standpoint to the economy. just a little bit about our organization. So this organization was actually incorporated in 2015, but it really rose out of a need and a crisis in the city of Oxnard. And you'll see later down in my presentation how we're attending to this problem. But in the city of Oxnard, the rates of home fires are 5 times greater than that of the state of California. Many of the farm workers who live there, they live in dwellings that are not up to code. They live in, like, a garage can be like 2 families, no running water. If there's no running water, there's not gonna be any smoke alarms. So it's a real issue, and there was a major apartment fires that erupted out in 2013. Dr. Ted and Judy Lucas, they're 2 very loving residents out in Ojai. They found out what was happening, and so they took it upon themselves to help these families that were displaced. Their living conditions were like out of high school, divided up by a white bed sheet, and that's where families and children were living, and the majority were farm workers. They took it upon themselves to do this, and the organization continued. And then in 2023, they said, you know what, we really need to retire. We want to move on. And the org really started to grow from there. So I was a volunteer pretty much since the inception of the organization, and then became a staff member as the first executive director of the org. And so we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary at last year. We're a very, very small staff. So Christine was actually our board president, and now she came on as our programs director. And I'm executive director. I also come from a farm worker family. My father worked as a farm worker while I was growing up, and Christine's family did as well. So we wanted to make sure as we built the board that we had people that represented the community that we serve. This is our board of directors. Anna is our current board president, and one of the things that we've done is to actually also support our board and board training through the Center for Nonprofit Leadership, attending different forums to ensure that we're also running the nonprofit as a nonprofit should. So we have truly a really great team. Carolina here was a farm worker herself, as was Candy, who was on our board. Carolina was a migrant farm worker throughout California, and so she worked Ventura County fields since she was like 7 years old, and moved up and down and then settled in Ventura County. And now she's actually a very prominent businesswoman. She's a co-founder of Esquire Property Management out in Camarillo. So in terms of our programs, so we do all sorts of stuff. Like if you're creative and you're like, I want to help in this way, we can probably make it happen. But these are some of our core programs. So we have Laundry Love, scholarships, emergency funds, farm visits, family preparation, and roots of care. So what is Laundry Love? Laundry Love is a no-cost laundry services. So we have multiple Laundry Love events, and farm workers typically save their laundry for the month. So they come with blankets. Like, we do not limit how much laundry they can bring. It's part of a bigger national program through Laundry Love. And so we provide no-cost laundry services. In addition, because it's a time where farm workers bring their families, they typically don't just go by themselves. It's really an opportunity that we get to engage with entire families, the children. And so we have a children's program that's a part of Laundry Love. We set up a little table, and children, we help them with homework, we help them with activities, little different arts, sciences, and it's also an opportunity for different nonprofits or groups to come and table and provide resources to the farm worker families. And that's just a couple more photos there. We do so many distributions. We do have an MOU with a food share, and so we have volunteers who pick up food boxes and we deliver them to the families as well. So it becomes like an all-in-one type of event in addition to just laundry. When we had an organization who wanted to donate shoes, we had brand new shoes donated, And we just have just such amazing volunteers. With just 2 staff members, we have over 200 volunteers. And trust me, everybody puts their heart into it to make this work. We also have, in terms of our celebratory part of our mission, we have student scholarships. So we award scholarships to either farm workers themselves, which is last year we had one farm worker who went to Oxnard College and applied and was awarded. But typically it's students, it's the children of farm workers, such as myself, you know, who wanted to continue on with higher education. And so now we're able to offer them their scholarships so that they can continue. So we've had graduates from UCLA, a graduate from UC Berkeley, CSUC Irvine, or CSUCI, UC Irvine too, that's my alma mater, and also from local community colleges. So we're very, very proud, and there's a lot of effort that the committee has formalized to create an actual eligibility requirements and actually right now I believe it's about to be closed, but we were just taking in applications for that. So we also have an emergency fund program. So unfortunately, cancer is very prevalent in this community. We actually have a family where the mother, who's the farm worker, has cancer and her child has cancer. We also get a lot of referrals from Children's Hospital in LA. And I think for a while, social workers, physicians were trying to figure out like what's happening in Ventura County, because every time we have women who are coming in from Ventura, farm worker women who are delivering babies from Ventura County, they have pretty serious medical conditions. A lot of the babies do. And so when that happens, they can't work, you know, they're out there in the hospital. And so we are able to provide direct emergency funds, literally a check to them. This baby, the mom, we had been connected to this baby who had a pretty severe medical condition, and it just so happened it was like a super rare medical condition, and that woman and another woman delivered their babies around the same time, and they ended up having the babies had the same type of medical condition. So pretty serious, and this family, I still remember that day, it was right before the holidays. The mom calls me from the hospital and says, you know, I think today's the day that they're gonna disconnect my baby from all the tubes. Would you like to come? I showed up. She had no family there other than her husband, and a little toddler was kind of running around the hospital room. And they decided to go ahead and unplug the baby, and a couple of hours later, the baby passed away. Extremely, extremely tragic. And so during those times, I remember the dad was talking about building the little coffin out of wood planks to make a little wood box for the baby. And so we're there to immediately support. Right now, we're able to provide $1,500 depending on the level of severity. But of course, when it's a death, it's the highest severity. So we're able to do that through direct emergency funding. On a more celebratory note, this is actually a program that I also launched. It's farm visits. So it's working and meeting workers where they are. So interestingly enough, one thing that we really learned is that growers were not very trusting of any pro-justice groups. They just don't want anybody on their fields. It's been a relationship building to kind of show like, hey, we're not here to unionize, not like we have anything against unionizing, that's just not the work that we do. And actually one of our strongest partners is UFW. I talk to UFW on almost every single day. But that being said, that's just not the work that we do. We provide a direct service. And you know, when we go out to the farms, we've built these relationships, we go out and we have been celebrating them by distributing goods, by distributing food, warm meals. Right after the raids, that's when it was really, really challenging, but we were able to meet the workers where they were and take pretty much like thousands of goods, bags, because even though community members were like distributing them, like nobody's going to make a line, right, and be afraid that they're going to be taken by ICE. It was already hard for them to get to work because many workers were reporting they were waking up at 3 a.m. because they were trying to avoid ICE, get there by like 3:34, and then wait at work until work started. So some of that was happening, but farm visits is pretty much a, does that mean I have 30 more minutes? Okay, I'm like, wait, is it up? Okay, I'm like, let me talk faster. So farm visits is definitely one of our more celebratory type of programs. And then we have Roots of Care, which really started as a diaper delivery program. We have a lot of babies in our programs, and so we have a connection through a nonprofit over in Thousand Oaks. They provide the diapers. We have volunteers that deliver the diapers to the babies and the families. And so then we expanded this to now cover many of our crisis families. So from the raid that happened at Glass House in unincorporated Ventura County off of Oxnard/Camarillo, we have over 300 families just from that one raid. So these are families where children were separate, they were single mothers. So if they took the moms, the children were alone. Like literally I had people who were like, what are we gonna do with the babies? Like they were left with a babysitter. There was a babysitter who showed up with like 2 little babies and said, hey, the parents never, like, where are the parents, you know? So we've had a lot of dealing with that type of trauma, as you can imagine. And so although the mass raids are not happening now, or we haven't seen that, the detentions are still happening, but the repercussions of that continue, right? So families are still having a really hard time. They're still considered our high crisis families. And so in addition to all the other families that we have, so we have, yes, the immigration families, but then we just literally have like all the families who were already struggling due to a medical condition, or maybe they lost their home, whatever it may be, we have all those other families. And so you can imagine immediately after the raid, it was extremely overwhelming. Our phones were ringing left and right to provide services. It was literally just 2 of us. Eventually, I was able to organize a group of volunteers, signed an NDA. The Ventura County Community Foundation let us use their space. We made calls, and that's how we were able to do some intakes to serve the families. But definitely a challenge. But what we do here under this program is we get a group of volunteers every month. They put bags together of different goods, and they make the deliveries themselves. So really amazing. And then we have all these other seasonal programs. We have the New Boots Drive in the spring, which actually that's ongoing now. We're collecting funds to provide new boots for our farm workers. We have backpack distributions in the summer, Halloween costumes, turkey distributions in the fall, in partnership with Oxnard PAL, Adopt a Family, which is a huge, like, really fun. I think some of you have already been a part of it, a winter holiday program. And then we also partner with UFW to do a posada for a gift distribution. So this is for our new work boots drive. So what we found through reports from medical providers is that farm workers were really having a lot of fungal infections. And so the fungal infections from their feet were traveling to their hands, and it was pretty severe. And the reason is because they did not have the proper workwear. They couldn't afford only 1 pair of shoes. Those were tennis shoes. It's not like they were the right type of shoes to wear. And most workers are not unionized, so it's not like they have the proper PPE. So because of that, we took it upon ourselves, like, you know what, let's do a boots drive. Let's do a brand new shoes boots drive. And so I think this program was over $10,000 that we funded last year to provide new boots. This year, I said, hey, I want to still do this, but I want some cooperation from the growers. So what I'm asking is, like, you match 50%, we'll give you the other 50. We're working on that. So always trying to improve that. And so this is information on our second annual Boots Drive, and we're trying to get the support to get those contributions matched from local growers. So far, it sounds like we have 2 farms who are willing to do that, but I think, again, it's about them trusting who they're going to be working with, and so I think we're getting there little by little. And this is, so we're asking the growers, but then the community members can also make an impact. You can be a part of either the seed, roots, or stem, different levels of funding, or you can give any amount really, and it's to help support the Boots Drive. Every single penny pretty much goes to that. We absorb all the operational costs. So it goes directly to that. For our backpack distributions, this is out with the Oxnard Police group, and we do an annual backpack distributions. But we also do that with other groups, like the YMCA in Camarillo. They did a little backpack drive, so we were able to do that. So if there's anybody in the community who would like to do any type of drive, like we've done that, for example, at our church at Padre Serra with diaper drive. I think we've done a blanket drive, a warm hoodies drive, and that was a collaboration with Girl Scouts. We have so many partners because, again, we can't do it on our own. So we're very, very thankful for all of that. And then here, this was a little girl enjoying her little costume from the new and gently used Halloween costumes. So it was a really fun event. This actually was out at Somis Ranch Farm Worker Housing. It's a new farm worker housing adjacent to the city of Camarillo. So it was a very, very successful event, and we actually partnered that event with another one, which was a family preparation event. Adopt a Family, super fun during the holidays. So if you want to do something special for the holidays, you can adopt a family. We have a memorandum of understanding, a little contract with our local school districts. And so in addition to our crisis families, school districts are also able to refer their own students. And from those students, we pull up the entire family, and every family gets adopted. So every single member of the family gets a gift. This year, we adopted over 400, like 80 families. So it was pretty chaotic, but nevertheless, lots of joy and lots of happiness, as you can imagine. And these are just some of the little parties that happen when we have multiple little parties when we distribute out the gifts. And Christine, our programs director, is the one who helped launch this program. She had a brother who was a little brother back then who was diagnosed with cancer, and she remembers being a part of a similar program like this. And unfortunately, her little brother passed away, but nevertheless, she wanted to replicate this type of program for families in need. During the holidays, we also have a Posada partnership with United Farm Workers. This past year, I had requested toys from, the NBC Toy Drive, one of those like groups. And so at the last minute, they said, I don't know if we can fulfill because there haven't been as many donations. I freaked out. I went into full elf mode. And, and I said, okay, time to start reaching out for toys. So we reached out to a ton of community members. Needless to say, we were able to provide over 1,000 toys. So it was really, really fun, but kind of stressful as it's like December, as you can imagine, for nonprofits. It's also a big like fundraising month. So a lot was happening, but it was all worth it. We were able to join UFW and to provide, and that's kind of our main thing in the partnership, providing the gifts. So you can imagine how stressful that was at the last minute. They were actually able to give us some gifts, so then we were able to provide the rest, which was amazing. So going back to the founding of our organization and the rates of home fires in the city of Oxnard, we actually started an initiative with Oxnard Fire Department, that's Chief Hamilton there, with United Farm Workers and the American Red Cross. And it's the Sound the Alarm initiative that the Red Cross was already ongoing. And so we joined them to ensure that we can install smoke alarms where farm workers live. And we wanted to just be like, hey, at this point, people literally have died from these fires. And I think Chief Hamilton, he really stated, because we did have a case where there was a family that was impacted by a home fire. The father passed away. The children were so severely burned that they were up north in a burn treatment center for about a year. And I remember he said, this really changed the trajectory of my career and how I view safety. And so for him, he's like, look, we just want to be able to install the smoke alarms. I understand some of the homes will not be up to code, but we just need to save lives at this point. And so we've done this partnership. We launched it, and we have another one coming up in May. So we're going to be going out and installing even more smoke alarms there. I told you a little bit about our immigration fund or immigration stories, but we did literally the day of that big raid, I started an immigration fund where 100% of the proceeds were also going to these families. Over $100,000 has gone out to over 300 families, and we continue to support in whatever way we can with the families who have remained here. This was extremely traumatic, I think, for an entire community, not only for the individual families themselves, but the stories even after, if they're lucky, quote lucky, and they come out of detention, have been absolutely horrible. And to tell you the truth, there is that level of vicarious trauma for staff as well. I remember literally feeling so nauseous, and when I would give these presentations, I could not cry. Because it was so challenging. Every time that we had a family that we would go out to, we weren't just like, oh, here, pick up a check and go. We would go to their home. We would listen to their stories. Many times this was the first time that anyone had listened to them. They feel so unsafe that they don't feel safe calling, Actually, there was a huge decrease in 911 calls after the raid. That was confirmed by the chief of fire. And by the time people would call, it was a very high severity calls. So people were basically dying by the time they would call. People have not been going in as much to visits, to dental visits, medical visits. We had a farm worker that canceled their heart surgery. They had been waiting for like over a year, but they were just so afraid. And so we do have, so every time we would go in, we would listen to the stories, absorb like everything that was happening. These are families that do not feel safe calling even the county to get any mental health type of support. So it's been a real challenge. One of the families who was detained, she was detained, and then ICE got her address, came back and took the father, and then the kids were left alone. Both mom and dad were in detention. She fought because what she's reporting is that ICE beat her because they wanted her to sign the self-deportation documentation. And she said no, she didn't want to because she has a child with disabilities and really needed to take care of her child who was a US citizen and was here. Fortunately, she was able to get out of the detention center. But even her stories in the detention center, they were being fed for dinner. They're being fed frozen bread, like you can literally see the frozen icicles. There was insufficient soap, no shampoo. She said, and there were animals, and I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, oh no, there's snakes that come into the cells all the time. Yeah. And of course, she's super traumatized and, just super afraid to even request help from anybody. So she is one of our emergency families that we continue to support with as much as we can. So many untold stories. This specific family, I took this photo because I thought it was very interesting. We have on the left, you have Our Lady of Guadalupe. She's a Catholic farm worker. And on the left, it was, all her rosaries and her saints. And on the right, she had this American flag with our eagle. And so we asked her, like, how did you feel about that? She said, well, I always felt very proud of like living in this country, but right now I just feel so unsafe. So that's really where these families are. This particular farm worker, it was actually 3 children that she was taking care of on her own that were not her children. They were relatives' children, but both mom and dad were detained and deported after the raid. And so you have a little, I think, like 10 and 12-year-olds. And with this story, the 12-year-old and the 10-year-old realized their mom wasn't coming home. And so they were trying to figure out what to do. And so they ended up going to the aunt's house, and this is where they ended up. But we have so many stories like that. This is just some of our response to to the raids, which we talked about in terms of delivering basic supplies and collaborating with other orgs, participating in the Farm Worker Resource Fair and legal forum. So we try to do so much. A lot of that we don't post on social media because of safety. You can imagine what that's like. But something that we have also been actively working on is on a family preparation and legal packets. And that's in collaboration with United Farm Workers. And this is actually an immigration attorney, Vanessa Frank. And so what we do with these programs is we help farm workers prepare their documentation in the event that their children are taken, or even a plan like having an extra set of keys. When the Glass House raid happened, Friends of Fieldworkers helped to support, to pay just to get the either extra copies of keys, but more than anything, it was to get the cars towed because the farm workers had the keys with them. What I've also heard from those stories is many of them it was payday. So many of the farm workers had their checks with them, and many of them were not getting their checks back after they were deported. So that's a whole other issue, but some of those injustices were happening as well. So through our work, actually this was with house farm workers as well. We were trying to do these family preparation events to help prepare farm workers, because the reality is that they may get taken, to the point, quite honestly, that even for me, since I'm out on the fields and the farms a lot, I've had to make a photocopy of my own passport, and I gave one to the chief of police. I gave one to the mayor. I've said that out publicly on the dais. I even got criticized for it. I'm like, that is the reality. Because of the color of my skin, I will be targeted. And so those are conversations that even within our family we've had, although we're all US citizens. So this is really how the community came together to show their support. The support was really intense. It was amazing. Some of that has slowed down, which is to be expected. It's not as visible, but nevertheless, we still have so many volunteers and supporters, such as yourselves, who are willing to listen to what we're doing and to help in any way that they can. As you're aware, we had the big Cesar Chavez allegations that came out, which was, for me, it was quite shocking. I'm actually also friends with the granddaughter of Cesar Chavez, and so you can imagine how devastating it was for the family as well. So it was really a big loss and a time of grief, I think, for so many that saw Cesar Chavez as a hero. What we do know is that sexual harassment is something that happens, but I did not realize it was happening at such a frequency as every single day. Every single day is what farm workers, women have been reporting. They get sexually harassed by the mayordomos or the foremen, and so it's pretty much impossible to make any type of reporting. And so this woman who spoke up, she herself was also a victim of sexual assault. We have a woman that we have served through our emergency funds who was raped on the fields and has just not been able to come forward. But she was so traumatized that she was unable to go back and even go back to the fields. This woman here, she's just super amazing. She talked about, I got a quote from her. She was on, I think this was from NBC News, but she's one of our farm workers, and she said, I've experienced sexual assault, and it's like reliving the situation when we were talking about Cesar Chavez. I put myself in the position of Dolores Huerta and other victims, and it is difficult to speak out because people will not always believe you. And then she goes on to say, every farm worker woman experiences sexual harassment every day by men, including the mayordomos, the foremen. For fear of losing our job and the need to feed our families, we tolerate it every day. So what we did, I immediately needed to take action because it is another crisis, right? That's coming as if we didn't have enough crises already with this population. We took action in developing a mental health pilot program. Currently, we're working with a licensed clinical psychologist with the assistance and leadership of 2 farm worker women who have had these types of experiences and who said, I want to do something, I want to speak out, I want to be a part of some type of program. So we're developing this program, and ironically enough, we're going to be launching it at the Dolores Huerta Farm Worker Housing in Oxnard. So this is an unfunded program, but currently it's all psychoeducational. That's how we're starting it off. Eventually, I do want to get to the point where we're actually providing the mental health resources, because although these resources exist, like at the county level, they're not going, especially when they know that their information can get released. And so it's really critical that because I've really seen, like personally, as I go into the homes and as I talk to farm workers, I've seen a deterioration in the mental well-being, the mental health of our families. There's just so much fear and trauma. And so again, this is an unfunded, it's a pilot program, but it's something that I'm looking into getting funded so that it could be sustainable. And this is just some of our fun awards that we've received. The Dr. Martin Luther King Social Justice Champion Award. And then I was awarded a Playmaker from the LA Rams. And it just aligned perfectly because my husband and the kids are Rams fans, but I grew up for this. So we received $5,000 for the organization and have been recognized in that way. We have so many community partners, and we would be honored to add your logo from the Immaculate Heart onto our community partners. They just support in so many different ways, and again, we could not do it without the support of our partners and volunteers. This is how you can contact us. This is, you all have, I think I tried giving these out. If not, I have some more here. Our pamphlets. Our website is on the back, or if you want to pass those around to see if somebody's missing those. And whoops. Okay. So, and I can always go back, but I'm happy to answer any questions now. I think I got it all within that time. Yes.
For those who want to ask questions, please just raise your hand. We'll bring you a mic. And just wait till you get the mic, because we want to make sure our friends online can hear the questions too. So with that said, who would like to make a question or a comment? Christine.
I'm wondering whether ICE actually comes onto the fields where the workers are. And secondly, what is the position of the farmers? They depend on their workers, and yet many of them are conservative. How are they responding to what's going on?
Yeah, so the first raid that we had, a smaller raid. It was in June 10th, and then the big raid happened on July 10th, like literally a month after that. When that first raid happened, ICE did go inside private property and dragged farm workers out. Other farm workers saw that, and they reported being just so shocked at what they saw. Of course, that's not legal, and the Farm Bureau of Ventura County, the executive director who was there, wrote this like this letter basically calling ICE out, like, this is wrong, this is illegal, you can't, because they were literally chasing farm workers down the fields. Like, they were in there, like, and my dad would always say, they treat Mexicans worse than they treat animals. Trust me, I have seen that. And so unfortunately, there have been violations of the law. What I have personally seen more growers do is now they've really hardened up their properties. And so they've invested money into putting up gates. So before, you used to be able to drive around and all the fields were open. Now if you drive around, there's a lot more gates. So having said that, that's really the last communication that we heard from the Farm Bureau. The reality is, like, look, they need their workforce, and they voted for the guy who's taking them away, right? And so it's been a real problem. What this administration did, in addition, was to gut the H-2A program. So this is something that UFW has been fighting at the court levels. The H-2A program, the way that it was designed is that you would bring workers, typically from Mexico, and they would get housing here, they would get food, and they would have higher wages. Like, I think their wages were about, I want to say about 19 or so, or 17 an hour. Under this administration, they decreased the funds. So I think they're down to like 12, I want to say. I can't remember the exact amount. But they gutted the amount that they're getting paid. They took away food, they took away housing. So literally almost slave labor. But in addition, what's happening is because people are getting paid at a low rate now, there are farm workers who are residents, who are US citizens, who are working. And so the big, what UFW is claiming is, well, now that's going to impact their wages too. And so that's why there's lawsuits that are going on regarding that. So I think, unfortunately, the growers need to, they probably need to make better decisions on, on who they need to vote for. But they're trying to get away with the, and not all growers, like there are some very friendly folks who have also been in communication with me and who are, open to supporting in different ways, but it's an economic decision, for them. So, yeah.
I have a question about the farm worker housing. So, as a grower, is there any requirements to provide housing, for the migrant farm workers? How do they get housing? What can be done so that they're not living in, horrible conditions?
Yeah, so in Ventura County, there is SOAR, so that limits the type, and I understand, like, they're trying to limit the growth, right? But those farm worker housing places that do exist, they've even had some trouble filling them. Number one, I think there's like one of them is it's Somas Ranch, and it's off of like on the outskirts of the city of Camarillo. Most workers, they want to be close to what they consider their home, like Oxnard. And so we do have another farm worker housing in Oxnard. A part of the challenges there, it's been some of the property management, but the other piece has been, like, people are also afraid because ICE has been on those properties, and if they come in, it's like very easy to like grab everybody. And so that's been a concern. The other piece is that even though it's considered like low income, it's still not low enough for them to be able to afford it. And so that's been a real challenge, and especially when they have bigger families, they just can't afford it, and they don't qualify. So depending on the AMI too, they just can't always. But having said that, I think there's definitely a need. House Farm Workers, which is there's three organizations that specifically focus on supporting farm workers in Ventura County. UFW is more unionizing. There's House Farm Workers that focuses on, ensuring that there's housing. And they actually do have even growers on their board. And so I think having those connections and those needs and that advocacy at the county level continues to be of importance. Yes.
Hi. I have a question. Do you have any like support from police, attorneys? Are you involved in lawsuits against ICE? Is there anything, that we can do with this disaster?
So our organization is not directly involved in lawsuits with the federal government as like UFW or the other orgs are. In terms of our engagement with local law enforcement, yes, absolutely. So because also the other hat that I wear is I'm vice mayor for the city of Camarillo. We have a good relationship and rapport with our local law enforcement. But it is a challenge because after the raids, they just did not want to call 911. They were just so afraid. So it's, of course, if somebody comes to us with, reports of criminal activity, we have help. Like we had a young woman who was, very young woman who was raped in a vehicle by her boyfriend. And so we helped to guide her through that entire process and ensure that she was safe as she was going through it.
I have two questions.
Yes.
One, is there an equivalent organization like yours up in Santa Maria, northern Santa Barbara County? And the second question is, when I do go that way, driving south, I come across McGrath Farms.
Oh, yes, they're a very friendly grower.
That's
Yeah.
great. I'm glad to hear that because we do have an IHM in the audience today who taught those McGrath boys. And I thought if you needed help, if you needed help getting them to be more friendly, we might be able to help.
Yeah, no, McGrath has been great. I think it's definitely an opportunity for a bigger relationship that we can build, but they're definitely a kind family, and they're in the unincorporated part of Camarillo as well. So I actually love shopping. They have their little market. Yeah, great. And I recently did a tour. It was like a tour slash event there. They had other growers go talking about organic farming. I was a panelist focusing on immigration, but I was a panelist for it's like an organic farmers group. And so to your question, when I spoke there, I don't think that everybody was like, I don't think there's another organization like that up north. I think there's other groups that do more like advocacy, community organizing, like I think Cause is up there, Micah, but in terms of what we do is literally service delivery. We don't really get involved in the political aspect of it, so we're not involved in lawsuits. We don't do that type of work. So that is why I think, and to their point, for the growers, they're also trying to protect a business. So they're not just going to allow anybody on their fields, and it's going to take some time and relationship building and that's why it's taken some time to allow us to get on their fields. But now, like we have a very good relationship with Riders, which is a big grower, and they actually were pretty amazing because they during and after the raid, they had all of their staff organized so that when we had community members who were dropping off stuff because they just wanted to give, they would organize all that and pass it on to their workers. And that way people didn't have to line up anywhere to get theirs. Writers. Yeah. Yes.
I was just up in Santa Maria on Saturday at the Brave Conference, and that was put through for the Children's Resource and Referral of Santa Barbara County. And I was so blown away at the resources that are available in our county for families, for farm workers, and it was really inspirational. And it'd be really cool to see you coming up north and their referral system being able to move south, because they were exactly like bilingual education for children and family mental health support. And I felt like really hopeful and was like so excited. And just as much as I'm just you're a powerhouse, and how awesome it is to
No,
hear you
thank
speak.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, I'd love to connect with that because the reality is that most of our workers in Ventura County, that's their home. But during low season, sometimes they'll move like to Salinas. This year, this is what I've just heard. I haven't confirmed it, but what I've heard is that it's been a harder season, like strawberry season, so that workers who are working like by piece, I think back then it was a couple of weeks. Now it's been a rougher season, so they've been working less, is what the workers are reporting. So many of those, they will try to move. Now with the H-2A program, I think that's kind of the challenge as well.
The children who have lost their parents or whose parents' future is indeterminate, and do they always find relatives to take care of them, or some of those children ending up in the foster system?
So that I know of, there are no children that went into any system, and part of that is just like complete fear of any government entity. That I know of, there were children that went with family members. The family where the photo was, that woman, and bless her heart, she had a breakdown because she just couldn't. She had her own children, taking in 3 more. The landlord was bullying her because she couldn't have, there were too many people in the apartment. And so she had to split up the children. The baby went to Mexico, middle child went with another aunt, and the other child with another one. And so we've had cases like that where children are just completely separated. We've had cases where children were just like completely taken back, and so they never came back. So these are all most of the time they're U.S. citizen children. They left and they stayed out there. That baby that was taken, I'm like, oh, you should have told us because we needed to work on the passport, right? Because now it's going to be harder to bring a child back. So then there's those issues too. So most, I think, are with relatives, or if the father or mother was here, then they're still separated. We had one farm worker who was 4 months pregnant. She was detained and she was transferred to multiple detention centers. And eventually her story was so horrible because when she was released finally from Louisiana, they had her in chains as she was pregnant, and she had to advocate so she could be released from the chains. They finally took her off, and ICE had asked the family for her Mexican passport. The husband mailed the Mexican passport. ICE received it. They literally got the passport, threw it in the trash. So they released her into Mexico with no documentation. She had no way of funneling any type of money. She's pregnant with her jail clothes because they didn't give her her regular clothes back. So the level of dehumanization is just so excessive. And so then she was finally able to get, I think the Mexican government helped her get from the border to Mexico City. And then she took buses sleeping on different taco stands from Mexico City, pregnant, again, with her jail clothes and no food, and couldn't have access to money because she didn't even have any form of ID, back to Oaxaca. And so she's going to be delivering her baby out there and has her 4 children here and her husband, who's a farm worker.
Question. Thank you so much. I had a question. I know that the Palm Wonderful companies have a lot of supports for their workers in Lost Hills community centers and education opportunities, etc. If you're familiar with that program, is that something that you could see other farmers replicating, or how active do farmers get in the welfare of their workers?
I don't know much about that program, but I think even just partnering with us, I welcome whatever farmers, growers can do to help support their workers. I welcome that, whether it's through us or not. And I do know there are smaller growers, for example, one who I met in Ventura County, who they provide housing for their employers, and they've been there for like, I don't know, over 20 years. And they also help support through like scholarships. I think I've heard some of that as well, but that's not really common. I don't hear that as much. So that's just something that I don't know, but I do welcome that. And if you're connected with any folks, I'm always happy. Like literally Boots Drive is like an easy way. I think that growers can help support.
So thank you for all this hard work that you're doing,
You're
and
welcome.
clearly you're reaching people. I'm noticing that you said there are 42,000 farm workers in Ventura County, and your numbers are in the hundreds that
Mhm.
you're actually able to reach. So um, if you could wave a wand, what are your priorities? What do you need? Is it money? Is it more volunteers? Is it, partnering with others, kind of as you're looking at the situation, assuming that it's going to go on at least through the end
Yeah.
of this year, what would be most helpful to you?
Yeah, so I mean, there's different ways that folks can participate in the organization. We always welcome volunteers because I mean, it is so vital to what we do. We have over 200 volunteers, and so if you have a special talent, we have volunteers who are helping with social media or volunteers who, have a certain expertise. I have a friend who's an attorney, and so she's been able to provide like, no cost consultations, for example. So always any type of volunteering expertise. There's a dicho, a Spanish saying, Mexican saying, like, con dinero baila el perro, like even the dog dances with money. So, so absolutely any type of funds, funding that's how we move our programming. That's how we've been able to grow as an organization and help more people through our farm visits program, because we go to multiple farms and sometimes it's a couple, it could be a couple hundred, probably definitely over I would say a couple thousand actually a year that we serve, because that's a very wide program. You just show up to a farm, deliver meals. But in terms of, you will see smaller numbers in our crisis, because not everybody's experiencing crisis. That being said, when they are experiencing crisis, it's pretty significant, because in addition to economic conditions that they were already facing, now it's immigration, which has been really, really challenging. Even for our organization and even for our board members, some of them were afraid, again, all US citizens, but they were afraid to even have their photos and their names up because of possible retaliation from the federal government. So names, all of that was taken down. I mean, I'm public, so. And ICE knows where I live. I actually accompanied a farm worker. ICE told us that they just needed to go in and remove her monitor, her bracelet. So I go in, I accompany her. The first time an attorney did, and I accompanied her there too. And then the second time they're like, oh, just come, we're just gonna remove it. I go into the Camarillo ICE office, and then she never comes out. And so I'm like, okay, like what time is she gonna come out? And the ICE agent's like, you can just go home. This is gonna take a while. And I'm like, okay, is she being detained? And he said, you don't have the authority to get any more information. And I said, well, her children are in school. Her husband had just passed away. And sadly, he passed away on the fields during a heat wave. So that was out in the news like 2 years ago or so. And then this poor woman now gets flagged by ICE, and sadly, she was taken. And so, but when she was taken, I kind of had to pull that information out of them. I basically called them liars without saying it like that. I said, you brought us here under false pretenses. And so they said, well, the only way that you can get, because I said, let me have her car keys. And they said, the only way you can have her car keys is if you give us your ID. Had my home address. So I'm like, well, ICE knows where I live now, but it is a terrifying time, to be honest. Yes.
I'm curious in that situation, if you had an attorney standing there, what could they do in that moment, if anything?
You know, the attorney had shown up prior to that, but the reality is she was going to get taken. The attorney did call in and did speak to ICE, and the ICE agent said, "This is my first day at work, and I've made this decision, and that's it." The woman is still in detention. Yeah. And the woman is in Adelanto, and initially she would call me every single day when she was able to get access to the phone. And I remember there were times where I would just sit there and help her and pray with her and just do breathing exercises because she was having a literal panic attack on the other side. And again, no access to mental health services or even any medication in the detention center until like months later or weeks later. Her children are with an aunt. Yeah. So we should be hearing the result of that soon. Yeah. And that is it. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your patience and for listening.
Well, Martita, you have given us a lot. I think she said it. We live in terrifying times, and we aren't experiencing what these folks are, these women, these children, these families are experiencing. And we need to hear those stories, don't we? Because otherwise we kind of go to sleep and it's not in the headlines, and the reality is right there in your face every day. So thanks for bringing it alive for us. Mm-hmm. So we're educating each other. We're going to take this into prayer. And if you didn't find a way to act on that presentation, you were sleeping. So let's make sure that we follow up. Now, I got to disappear behind you just a minute. Oh, stay there. Pam always does this for me. So on behalf of the Immaculate Heart Community, thank you for your time today, and thank you for your service. It's so important, and it does give us hope, doesn't it? That there are people like you and your organization out there making a difference and giving people hope. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, and come back next month. We'll be here next month. So thank you. Have a good day.